Welcome back to another edition of A New York State of Mind. Hi, I'm your host, Ralph Miranda. I'll be joined by our producer, Nathan Miranda. And this is our next in the series of Yankee podcasts. We're trying to do one per series. We talked after the Ranger series. Now we're going to talk after the Astros series. The Yankees went into the weekend, returned home from their two series road trip to Miami and Texas, and came home to take on the Houston Astros. The Astros are a tough team. They give the Yankees fits. They've given them fits since 2016. Of course, some of that was jaded by the cheating scandal, but nonetheless, the Yankees seem to struggle with the Houston Astros. If you watch those games over the weekend, you know the Astros are a very, very, very good baseball team. In fact, they are second in Major League Baseball in team batting average, so that tells you a lot. And the team that the Yankees are not going to catch, the Toronto Blue Jays, are first at 270. They're hard to strike out. They've got pretty good pitching. Their bullpen is very good. So the Yankees struggle. The first game on Friday night, the Yankees lost that game 5-3 in 10 innings. The interesting thing about that, though, is the Yankees had battled back most of the night to tie the game. In fact, if you started early in the game, the Yankees jumped out to a 2-0 deficit right away. So they were behind the 8 ball, the Yankees, 2-0. Starting pitcher for the Yankees was Cam Schlittler, the rookie. So he gave up a couple home runs, or in the first inning, or a 2-run home run in the first. He gave up a home run to Altuve, and then gave up another home run after that, and they were down 2-0. But the Yankees battled back. Schlittler looked pretty good in that game. After that first inning, he pretty much recorded scoreless innings. Until the bottom of the 6th, the Yankees tied it at 2. And then the game went along until the 9th inning, stayed at 2-2. And then came the infamous top of the 10th inning. So Schlittler, De Los Santos, Doval, and Weaver all held the Astros to 2 runs. And then Aaron Boone, in his infinite wisdom, brought in Devin Williams. Now, let me say this about Devin Williams. I've said a lot of things about him. I like the guy. I feel sorry for him, actually, because I talked about this last podcast. Not everybody can play in New York. He was arguably the best closer in Major League Baseball, his 3 years in Milwaukee. In 3 years in Milwaukee, 22, 23, and 24, the total of those 3 years, he gave up 26 earned runs. His ERA in 22 was 1.93. His ERA in 23 was 1.53. His ERA in 24 was 1.25. So this was a stellar closer. And then he comes to New York. The Yankees trade for him to be their closer, and he can't pitch. I mean, he just cannot pitch. Now, I don't think he forgot how to pitch, but he cannot pitch. And most pitchers will have a repertoire of pitches, right? They'll have a pitch that they can get batters out with, but they have to have another pitch that they can set those batters up with. If a pitcher falls behind 2-0, 3-1, the hitter is looking for that guy's best pitch, and he's looking for it, and you better get it over. Well, in Williams' case, he has to set up his airbender, as he calls it, or his changeup, with a fastball, but he hasn't been able to locate that fastball, so he's been getting behind pitchers or hitters. I just got done telling you his stats for the last 3 years. This year, remember I said he gave up 26 earned runs total the last 3 years. His ERA, 1.93, 1.53, 1.25. This year alone, and the season's not even over yet, he's given up 28 earned runs. And his ERA right now is 5.44. So what's happened to this young man? The only explanation is the pressure and the bright lights of New York have gotten to him. After he came out of the gate and had a couple blown saves, he had won the first series of the season. I think the pressure got to him. I think the media, the fans, the pressure of pitching at Yankee Stadium and for the Yankees got to him. So Boone decides to bring him in the top of the 10th inning, and he proceeds to basically blow the game. 1 inning, 2 hits, 3 runs, 2 of them earned, and a home run. and the Yankees are down 5-2 going in the bottom of the 10th. They scored 1 run in the bottom of the 10th, but obviously it wasn't enough, and the Yankees lose that game. Interesting thing about that, we've talked a lot about Aaron Boone, right? Fans want him fired. I don't think he's a great manager, but he makes head-scratching decisions. He was asked after that game why, when Williams was pitching, all right, I think he hadn't even given up the home run yet, if I'm not mistaken, but he had loaded the bases, okay? And he had Mark Leiter Jr. warmed up in the bullpen. He was asked after the game, why didn't you go to Leiter Jr. before Williams gave up the home run? Because obviously he wasn't pitching very well. His response was, quote, Leiter had not pitched in a few days, and I didn't want to go to him in that pressure situation. Okay? Think back to the World Series last year against the Dodgers. That whole series, I think, turned on game number 1 in Los Angeles. The Yankees were ahead in that game in the 9th inning. He decides to bring in Nestor Cortes, who hadn't pitched since September, early September, so it had been a month. Brings him in. We all know what happened. Cortes gives up the 3-run home run to Freeman, and the Yankees lose game 1 and go on to lose game 2 and 3, and we know what happened. So in the World Series game, a game that if you win, you probably have a good chance of winning that series because you're going to go back to New York no worse than 1-1. He goes to a guy that hasn't pitched in a month. But in a game that you have to win in the season here, he doesn't go to that guy. So that's the situation with Aaron Boone right now. And then we'll get more into Boone here a little bit later. So the Yankees lose that game. Let's go to game 2. Game 2 yesterday, the Yankees ended up winning that game 5-4. Again, the Astros, Luis Gil, or Gil as they call him, was the starter. He went 5.1 innings, gave up 6 hits, 2 runs, both of them earned 7 strikeouts. Leiter comes in, pitches 2/3 of an inning, lights out. Weaver comes in, pitches an inning, lights out with a strikeout. Duvall comes in, okay? So this is an interesting situation right here. They bring in Camilo Duvall. Duvall pitches, let's see, the 6, 7. They bring him in with, let me count my numbers here. They bring him in the 8th inning, okay? So they bring Duvall in the 8th inning. The score in the 8th inning is 4-2 Yankees. Okay, the Yankees had battled back 4-2, gave up a run in the first, scored 2 in the bottom of the first. Astros tied in the 4th. Yankees went ahead in the 5th. 4-2. We go to the 8th inning. He brings in Duvall. Brings in Weaver in the 7th. Good move. Brings in Duvall. Duvall's been pitching pretty well. So Duvall gets 1 out. He walks the batter. Next guy comes up, hits a ground ball right back to the pitcher. Tailor-made double play. Tailor-made. He turns around and he slings it to second base with Volpe covering, throws it off the bag where Volpe has to reach for it to catch it so it doesn't go into center field. And in the reaching for it, his foot comes off the bag. Now you have runners on first and second. After that, gives up a hit, gives up another hit. Before you know it, the game is tied. Or actually, he gives up a couple hits. It's 4-3. They bring in David Bednar in the 8th inning. He proceeds to walk the first batter to walk in the tying run. Okay, so now it's 4-4. He gets out of that inning. The Yankees don't score in the bottom of the 8th. In the bottom of the 8th, Trent Grisham comes up, hits a monster home run to the second deck in right field to give the Yankees a 5-4 lead. Bednar comes back in the 9th, and now he pitches like the closer we know he is, 2 strikeouts, and the Yankees win that game. But again, let's dig a little deeper into that ball game, the problems there. At first glance, you think, hey, great win by the Yankees, great home run by Grisham, but the Yankees, they can't make the easy plays, whether it's Volpe making an error, whether it's the catcher interference calls that they've had this year, whether it's Wells not knowing how many outs there were and going off the bag and getting tagged out for the 3rd out, whether it's Chisholm getting doubled up at first base on a pop-up to the second baseman. It's error after error after error, bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. All Doval has to do in that situation is compose himself, throw it to Volpe. At the very worst, if he takes too much time, you get the out at second. Now you got 2 outs and a man on first. You can't have those things happen. You just cannot have them happen. Now, Grisham, on the other hand, let's talk a little bit about him. Great home run. In this series, Grisham was 3 for 12, so that's 250 for the series. 2 strikeouts, but then that real monster home run. And, I didn't think at the start of the season that Grisham was going to really be much. Remember, they got him last year when they traded for Juan Soto from with the Padres. Grisham was part of that deal. He was used to being an everyday player with the Padres, came to the Yankees, didn't get to play very much last year. This year, with Soto gone, he gets to play. And he's had a tremendous year. Check these stats out for Grisham. I think it's really underlies the kind of year that he's had. He's got 4 game-tying or go-ahead home runs in the 8th inning or later. That's tied for most in the major leagues with Nick Kurtz of the Athletics. That's impressive. He's got a career-high 21 home runs. He's tied for 8th among American League outfielders with that. And his OPS is .819, 4th among American League outfielders. That's pretty impressive from a guy who didn't get to play much last year. The more he plays, the more I'm impressed with him. Yeah, he has bad games, but he also steps up to the plate when you need him to. And that's what a championship team does. So the Yankees win that game. Grisham saves them, and now it's 1-1. The Yankees win 1, Astros win 1. Go back to last podcast. Remember what I said about the Yankees' upcoming August schedule after the Miami and the Texas series, what was left. I said they had to go 2-1 against Houston. They had to sweep the Twins coming up here early this week. Go 2-1 at St. Louis. Take both games from Tampa. Split with the Red Sox at home, 4 games, 2-2. Sweep the Nationals 3-0, and then take 3-1 of the series from the White Sox at the end of the month. They need to go 17-5. I said if they did that, they're not going to catch the Blue Jays, but they would have a chance to either be the number 1 wild card or the number 2 wild card. Well, they've already botched that, right? They're 1-2 now against the Astros. They won 1, lost 2. So they're already behind the 8 ball. And, well, I'll get into that a little bit later. I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's go to the game today. The game today was game number 3. This was a game that really the Yankees were never in it. Max Fried started, and it's almost like he had the exact same line that he did against Texas. He pitched 5 innings, gave up 8 hits, 4 runs, all of them earned, 3 strikeouts, 1 walk, gave up a home run to Altuve. Another poor performance. He couldn't locate his pitches. He went deep in too many counts. That's why he was out after 5 innings. So it was a poor showing. But I mean, I don't know how many of these showings we're going to have. Something is wrong with him. He was lights out before the All-Star break, had that blister, didn't pitch in the All-Star game, came back, and he hasn't been the same pitcher since then. So I said this a long time ago, many podcasts ago, well before the All-Star break, that if they lost Max Fried, if something happened to him, they're done. And I think you can start to see that because now they don't have a stopper. They don't have a guy that when you lost a couple games, you can go to him and he's going to get you a win. A guy like Roger Clemens, a guy like Andy Pettitte, a guy like Whitey Ford back in the 60s and 50s. One of those guys that can take the mound, and he's going to stop that losing streak. But they didn't have it. Now, so Fried gives up 4 runs, and after he came out of the game, it was 4-0 Houston. Now, interesting thing about that. The pitcher for the Astros was a guy by the name of Jason Alexander. Jason Alexander is a good pitcher. I mean, not bad. But you know what his ERA was coming into the game? It was over 5. And the Yankees had hit him pretty well in previous years. He proceeds to no-hit the Yankees, okay? I mean, he goes 6 innings, gave up 1 hit, 3 strikeouts, and 3 walks. How does a team that the manager says, the players say, we're a good team, We think we can get back to the World Series. How do you get no hits so much by these bozos? 3 hits, total 3 hits for the game, 1 hit to the starter, and that was it. Then the Yankees eventually put some guys on base, and this is another story. So they pulled him out of the game after the first hit. Okay, so in the 7th inning, after the 6th inning, they pull him out. So they bring in a relief pitcher. The Yankees proceed to piece together a couple hits and a walk, and they load the bases. Okay, they load the bases with 1 out. And the interesting thing about this is, it's hard for me to even talk about it. They load the bases with 1 out. Ryan McMahon comes up. All right, bases loaded, 1 out. Now, what do you think you have to do in that situation? Okay, well, if you're a hitter, you can't strike out. You have to put the ball in play somewhere, okay? And somewhere you got to either hit a hard ground ball or hit the ball deep to the outfield, something. What does he do? He pops the ball up to shallow left field. Of course, he's out. Luckily for the Yankees, the left fielder kind of played it casually, and Jazz Chisholm was on third, and he tagged up and raced home for a run. Okay, that's fine. So now you got runners on first and second with 2 outs. It's 4-1. Up comes Austin Wells, weak fly ball to right field. Innings over. So the Yankees go down 4-1 there, and then the Yankees come up, bring in Tim Hill in the 9th inning. It was 4-1. A guy that I like. I think he was the best release pitcher they had. Gives up 4 hits, 3 runs, 3 earned, 7-1 Astros. Ball game's over. So the Yankees lose 2 out of 3. 3 hits in that game, by the way. 3 hits in that game, and 7 strikeouts. Over the course of the weekend, the Yankees struck out 18 times. Over the course of the weekend, the Yankees had 92 at bats, so they struck out 20% of the time. Okay, basically every 5th hitter was a strikeout. For the season, the Yankees are striking out as a team 25% of the time. Well down in the major league list of strikeouts. In other words, deep into the 20s as far as most strikeouts. Toronto is still number 1. Toronto's a strong team. I mean, I don't want to start getting into that. But Toronto is a strong team. So, too many strikeouts for the Yankees. Let's take a look at their hitters for this series. Grisham, as I said, was 3 for 12 with 2 strikeouts, but the big home run on Saturday. Rice was 3 for 10 with a strikeout. Judge was 2 for 9 with a strikeout. Bellinger 2 for 12 with 2 strikeouts. Chisholm was 1 for 8 with 2 strikeouts. Dominguez 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Stanton 2 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Volpe 1 for 11 with 3 strikeouts. McMahon 0 for 7 with a strikeout. Wells 0 for 5 with 2 strikeouts. And Goldschmidt was 1 for 5. Now, does that sound like a team that has all the pieces in place to make a run? Does that sound like a team that thinks they can get back to the World Series? Unless the Yankees have this crazy idea that they can just flip a switch and it's going to be back. This is something we've seen all year long. They made their hay early in the season, against poor teams, but now and remember, this is something I learned when I was young playing baseball, and I think it still applies. Is that early in the season, the weather is not really that warm yet, so your pitching really hasn't gotten warm. Pitchers like warm weather, okay? So the Yankees feasted on some bad teams, and their pitchers were not in a groove yet. The weather gets warm, we hit May and June, and all of a sudden the Yankees can't hit any of these guys. So that's the story. That's where we're at right now, and it's really kind of sad, to be honest with you. Let's take a look at where the Yankees are at now after this series. The Yankees are now 6.5 games behind the Blue Jays, 6 back in the loss column, but basically 7 back because the Blue Jays own the tiebreaker. They're 2.5 games behind the Red Sox, 3rd in the East. Interesting thing is the wild card. The Yankees are now the third wild card, and they're only a half game up on the Guardians and only 2.5 up on the Rangers. So the Yankees are holding on by a thread. Now, I don't think they're going to win the division unless something miraculous happens, which, what's the old saying? If it looks like a rat and it smells like a rat, it's probably a rat. So the Yankees now have played 118 games. I don't think anything's going to change. I mean, these are guys that have been there now 118 games, except the guys they got at the deadline. So who thinks that they're going to turn this thing around in 44 games? So they're not going to win the division. Now, the interesting thing about the let's say they end up the third wild card. Okay, guess who they have to play in the first round? Remember how it works in baseball, right? Your two division winners with the best records get the bye. Your third division winner plays the third wild card, and your first and second wild cards play each other. So the team with the third best record right now is the Astros. The Astros. So if the Yankees eke out the third wild card, they're going to play the Astros. Now let's say they get the second wild card. Okay, if somehow they get the second wild card. Right now, that's Boston. The Mariners have the first wild card. So they would have to play the Mariners. Now, they've had a little success against the Mariners, okay? But don't know. Let's say they end up getting the first wild card. If they get the first wild card and the Red Sox are second, they'd have to play the Red Sox. So either way, it doesn't really look very promising for the Yankees when it comes down to whether they're going to even make the playoffs and who they might face when they get there. So that's where we're at right now. The Yankees now will host the Twins starting tomorrow night. A 3-game series with the Twins. Tomorrow night, the Twins are pitching Matthews, and the Yankees are pitching Warren. Two guys that have higher ERAs. Don't know much about Matthews, but that's the game tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, the Yankees will play the Twins again. The pitchers have not been named. And then on Tuesday, on Wednesday, Schlittler will pitch for the Yankees and Ryan for the Twins. So we'll see. I think I said they have to sweep that series, and they absolutely have to sweep that series because the Blue Jays, the Red Sox are not giving up. They're playing good baseball. The Mariners are playing good baseball. The Guardians are playing pretty good baseball. The Tigers and the Astros. I mean, the Yankees are in some serious, serious trouble. Now, I said I was going to get back to Aaron Boone, and I am. I've been critical of the Yankees. I've been critical of Aaron Boone, but I want to say this right away. There's nothing wrong with these young men. Okay, they're trying. I don't think there's anybody out there that's saying, I really don't care. I really don't think that's the case. They're just not good enough. Okay, and Boone, I think he cares a lot, but he's not a good manager. Now, do you want to get rid of Boone? The Yankees are not going to get rid of Boone. All right, this is his 8th season. After last season, after the 24 season, he had 1 year left on his contract. That was this year. So if the Yankees were going to get rid of him, or if they were going to say, okay, you took us to a World Series, let's see how you do next year, they wouldn't have given him a 2-year extension, which they gave him in February of this year. So he's actually now signed through 27. Do you think the Yankees are going to fire him? Not going to happen. Because this is what the Yankees want. This is what Hal Steinbrenner has told Brian Cashman. This is what Brian Cashman has told Aaron Boone. They want a guy that will go purely by the analytics, a guy that will do what they tell him to do, and a guy that will coddle the players. And that's another problem today. When I was playing football at a young age, I mean, if you'd have seen some of the ways we were treated in football practice and some of the things we had to do, but we said if they told us to jump, we asked how high. If we did something wrong, boy, we took the brunt of it. Today, it's like, you'll be okay. And I think that's a deeper problem of all these young guys today, these guys in their 20s. But they're coddling the players. There's no accountability. I've said that many times. No accountability. But that's what Cashman and Hal Steinbrenner want. So they're not going to get rid of Boone. And, everything is numbers. Everything is analytics. Who are you going to bring in? What is he against this guy? What's his right? What's his splits against lefties and right? That's ridiculous. Joe Torre himself said over the weekend, the Yankees had their Old Timers Day game on Saturday. Torre said, I don't like the numbers. He says a manager has to manage by feel and by his eyesight. What does he see is happening? What does he see about a player? What does he feel in that situation? Okay? In other words, you could have a guy that's due up, all right, and he hits very well against the guy that's pitching. A manager that manages the right way may say, I just don't have the right feeling about this guy today. I'm going to pinch hit. Or vice versa, I'm going to let him stay in there and hit. You can't just go by numbers. The problem is that over the last 20 years, ever since the Billy Beane thing back in early 2000, remember Moneyball, these general managers now are all MBAs. They're business school guys. They've never played any baseball, okay? So they don't really know anything about baseball as far as, how to play the game, how to manage it. So they're giving their managers, why do you see so many managers now that are young guys, okay, former players, but young guys, and all they're doing is following what the general manager tells them to do? You don't see any more Jim Lelands. You don't see any more Earl Weaver types. You don't see any more Lou Piniella types. You don't see any more Sparky Anderson types. You don't see any more Billy Martin types. You don't see any more Joe Torre types. You don't see any more Joe Girardi types. These guys are gone. You will never see them again. Because they're guys that held the players accountable. They're guys that told the GM, hey, you can go stick it where the sun doesn't shine because I'm going to do it my way. And usually they had they had the respect of that general manager because the general manager played ball. So we're stuck with Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone is going to stay with the Yankees even if they miss the playoffs. And of course, next year, in the offseason, Hal Steinbrenner will make a couple moves, okay? Of course, they're getting Cole back sometime next year. They'll get a few other guys back. He'll make a trade here and there. They'll release a guy, but they'll come back next year with the same basic situation. I mean, when you look at a guy like Volpe's 1 for 11 in the series with 3 strikeouts, all I hear about Volpe's, hey, he's hit a bunch of home runs the last few weeks. That's great, but he's hitting like 217. Austin Wells. I mean, these are guys that, I'm not saying they're not going to be great players, but these are guys that need to go back to the minor leagues for a little bit. Go back to AAA for a while, get your confidence back, hit a little bit, and then we'll bring you back up, okay? But they're not producing. Goldschmidt, okay? Good pickup for when they got him. He was pretty good early in the season, but he's washed up. He's done, okay? You're going to have to let that go. He's on a 1-year contract. You got to let him go, okay? You got to make Rice your first baseman, okay? Ben Rice is your first baseman. This guy, I mean, he was 3 for 10 in the series, 1 strikeout. Ben Rice is a pretty good hitter. He's hitting like 240-something, which I'd like to see a little bit more of, but he has good at-bats, okay? And he drives the ball a lot. So he's a guy that you got to play. Why they gave away so many catchers, I don't know. I'd get another catcher to bring in right now until Wells figures it out. Chisholm, 1 for 8, 2 strikeouts. He's hitting, 250. He's a clown. I'm sorry. He's a clown. Too many bonehead plays, too many bonehead moves on the bases. He swings for the fences too much. Where is the Yankees hitting coach? Is he not talking to these guys and talking about what they need to do or not do, how they can correct some problems? I mean, look at Bellinger. Bellinger was 2 for 12, 2 strikeouts. He's gone into another little slump here. And you can't have that. And Stanton, I mean, yeah, he's got some big hits. He's hit some home runs. But I don't know. I don't like his stance. I don't like his approach at the plate. And then you look at Aaron Judge. I mean, look, I know it's blasphemy right now to say anything bad about Aaron Judge. He's hitting, 337, 37 home runs, 85 RBIs, whatever it is, OPS 1.1, whatever. But tell me, I mean, when you listen to this podcast, I want you to comment tell me. Name for me 2 or 3 situations where Aaron Judge came through in the clutch. All right? I challenge you to do that. He hasn't done it in the postseason. He's come up many times here since he got back. Hadn't done anything. Yeah, he got a big hit Saturday, a base hit, okay? But I'm talking about where's that home run with 2 guys on base in the 8th inning? All right? Where is it? I mean, yeah, you can maybe count 2 or 3, but do you think a guy that's making $40 million a year, signed for another 8, 9 years or whatever, a guy that you're saying, a 2-time MVP, shouldn't he be producing a lot more than that? He strikes out way too much. And again, and we've talked about that before. It goes back to the philosophy nowadays. They don't care about guys striking out. I do, all right? I do. I think if you're going to strike out a lot, you better strike out in the first and second inning when it's early, and you better figure out the pitcher. And then when it gets to be the 7th and the 8th inning, you can't strike out. You should have these guys figured out. So, I'm rambling now. So we'll just leave it at that. So the Yankees now in third place, effectively 7 games behind the Blue Jays. They will play the Twins starting tomorrow in a 3-game series. We'll come back with a podcast after that. Hopefully they can sweep the Twins. If they get swept by the Twins, you can forget it. I mean, we might as well move on to the Giants. And we'll talk about the Giants next podcast a little bit, their first preseason game. But if they get swept by the Twins, if they lose 2 out of 3, forget it. If they win 2 out of 3, all right. But they got to sweep them, okay? If they don't, we've got problems. Prepare yourselves, though, okay? Prepare yourselves. The Yankees, at best, are going to be the 3rd wild card, at best. They're probably going to miss the playoffs. So, because again, 118 games, okay? 118 games. And you think anything's going to change? How much have you heard in the last month, we got to do better. We got to turn it around. But it's not happening. It's like if you tell your son to clean his room or cut the grass. Yeah, I'll get it done. But it doesn't get done. So the Yankees, they can't do it, okay? They can't do it. The one good move Boone made today is he brought Devin Williams in I think he brought him in the 6th inning, if I'm not mistaken. Let me make sure of that real quickly. He brought Devin Williams in, in the 6th inning. Not a pressure situation. Williams was great. He struck out the side. So maybe here on out, you put him in those situations, okay? And maybe if they can get close enough to make a run for the wild card, he can be a benefit to the Yankees a little bit in those innings because he pitched a great 6th inning. Because obviously the Yankees were behind 4-1. So that was about the best move. We go now into the Twin series. One other thing I want to talk about real quickly, and this is not a problem that's just a Yankee problem. This is a Major League Baseball problem. The Yankees right now, aside from one game where Carlos Rodon pitched 8 innings, I think it was the Seattle series. I'm not mistaken, or I may be mistaken. He pitched 8 innings. And, of course, the Yankees won the game because, all you needed was 1 inning from I think Weaver came in and closed it out. I think Fried has pitched 7 innings 1 time. But other than that, when has a Yankee pitcher gone more than 6? Most of the time they go 5. Remember Stroman? He used to go 4. Fried went 3 once when he had the blister. He went 5 the last 2 outings. So what does that mean? That means you're asking your bullpen every night to get 12 outs. Now, eventually a bullpen's going to get taxed, okay? You can't ask these guys to get 12 outs in a pennant race, a pressure situation every night. And the Yankees aren't alone in this. This is a problem in Major League Baseball. Is that as soon as a pitcher's pitch count gets to 90, oh boy, they start going crazy and they want to take him out of the game. But the way you can resolve that is like Alexander did today against the Yankees. He had 61 pitches in the 5th inning or the 4th inning. So you got to be economical. And the Yankees' problem is they can't get ahead of batters. And then another problem they have, and I don't know if this is taught and it must be taught because the pitching coach seems to be okay with it, is when you get a guy up 0-2, okay, all right, you want to throw him 1 slider down and away to see if he chases it, that's fine. But after that, let's get him out. Let's not go for the strikeout. Let's get him out, okay? And what I mean by that is when it's 0-2 or 1-2, throw him a pitch to get him out and keep your pitch count down. Because when you go 3-2, 3-1, you walk guys, all it does is your pitch count starts getting higher, and before you know it, you're out of the game in the 5th inning. So that's a problem that baseball has to figure out. But the Yankees, because that's who we follow, have got to figure it out right away. All right, so that's it for today. Yankees now, as I said, will come into the Twins series. They are 62-56 in third place. They will play the Twins tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday. They will have an off day on Thursday, and then they will go to St. Louis for a weekend series. So, hope you enjoyed it. Send us your comments. I want to hear what you think about Aaron Judge and what you think overall about this, and we'll be back with you after the Twins series. So, for our producer Nathan, I'm Ralph. Good to have you with us, and we'll see you next time on A New York State of Mind.